I want to take some time today to make the argument that negativity is overrated. That may seem like an odd argument to make because it's not like anybody's running around going, you've got to try this negativity thing. It's so good. It's so powerful and useful. I love negativity so much. Nobody's running around saying that. But at the same time, I think that negativity is a bit overrated. And I think that we often behave as though being negative is somehow more intelligent. Being negative is somehow useful. Being negative is somehow the right way to be if you want to move forward. I think that that is this hidden little through line that a lot of people have in their belief system. And I think that through our actions, we imply a higher value of negativity than it deserves. We imply that it is such a useful, powerful, and wonderful thing, not through praising it explicitly, but by the way that we use it. Now, I want to talk about this in relation to games and game development and creative behaviors in general, in relation to learning, and also just in relation to consuming games, right? Not just making them, but also consuming them. I've got a lot to say about it, so let's just get started. This is Game, Develop, Repeat. I'm your host, Chris. Thank you for joining me. Anyone can tell you what they hate about a game. Anyone can tell you what they hate about almost anything. They can just look at it and go, that bothers me, and they can tear into it. And you can exaggerate. You can keep coming up with more things about it that you don't like, and you can go into this vicious rampage about the game. It can become something that was kind of frustrating to something that is fundamentally wrong on every level. And because of that emotional arc that you can go through with negativity, it can become very inaccurate very quickly. And you can be annoyed about one thing about the game, and that can turn into everything about this game is bad, and then you cannot notice what it's doing right, and you can start to learn the wrong lessons, right? You can start to think this is bad because it was in a game that I don't like. And then you start to avoid an entire genre, right? You start to avoid playing things that you might love because, well, this one game was terrible and I hated it and it was an RPG, so I hate RPGs, right? You create this generalization in your head. You go from, I don't like this element of this game, to I don't like this entire game, to I must not like RPGs at all, to I'm not playing anything in this genre again. And then maybe one day something breaks through, you find out. You go, oh, it's not that I don't like RPGs, it's that I don't like games that last for 80 hours and have an obtuse, confusing story. And then, okay, cool, got it, no problem. I'll avoid those. And granted, that's a lot of RPGs, but still, precision is important. Knowing exactly what you don't like is good. But when you really lean into it and get in a real rampage about it and start going down this extremely, like, almost emotion-driven path of, I hate this about this game, I hate this so much, I hate this so much, everything about this sucks, then you close yourself off to some real interesting, not just games, but learning opportunities too. You can really start to make the world a smaller place for yourself, which in games, it's kind of okay, right? Like it's not the worst thing in the world if you make the world of gaming a smaller world for yourself. There are too many games, and there's a lot of games. So if you cut out entire genres, so be it. Do your thing. But what I'm interested in is the sort of psychological process here that I've noticed, at least in myself, and I think I've seen other people do it, where you kind of go, you know what, I just hate this now. For all of these reasons, and really the only reason I hate it is this one thing, but it feels good to be mad about all of this stuff. It feels good to really dunk on this game, to really tear into every little flaw and say how bad it is, because then I noticed, which means that I'm somehow a brilliant consumer. I'm somehow very informed and intelligent and thoughtful, and I have good taste, and I won't be fooled in the future, and my recommendations matter, and so on and so on. And you're getting all of that just from not liking a game, which is very satisfying. And you're enjoying the process of not liking the game too. This is the kind of negativity that I'm talking about. This thing that's just like, instead of being, okay, so here's the real issue. It gets framed as, no, I recognize when something is bad, right? Like, you can have this whole rant about something, you can have this whole soapbox about something, and your justification will be, well, it's bad, and I recognize that. And if you don't recognize that it's bad, that's because you're dumb and you can't recognize how bad it is. In reality, that person might just recognize something that's good about it that means more to them than it does to you. And the thing that you find bad might mean almost nothing to them. Maybe they don't care about the story. They're not playing it for the story because they read for stories and they don't really care much about stories in games. Maybe they don't really care about the gameplay. They're only invested in a story, and you care almost exclusively about gameplay. So you look at a visual novel and you go, this is horrific. It's not even a game. In reality, it's just a difference of perspective. But why does this matter, right? Why am I choosing to talk about this? And I could just say, everybody just do what you like, do what you enjoy, and that's that. Fine, fair. But once it starts tying into the creative process, once it starts tying into discovery and exploration and learning more about a hobby and really getting deep into it, one, on the gaming side, let's focus on that for a second. If you're trying to explore and enjoy and keep the hobby fresh, it's really nice to not hate things in the hobby. I mean, you can hate, how do I put this? The smaller the thing is that you hate, probably the better. You know, like if you really hate microtransactions, as I do, you can turn that into, I'm not going to play these games with microtransactions. I dislike it so much that I'm not willing to play these games. Or you can turn it into, I'm not going to engage with the microtransactions at all in these games. I hate it so much, I'm just not going to engage with the microtransactions. Or you can go on the bigger side of things and you can go, I'm never touching another game from anybody that's ever looked at a microtransaction. You know, like any company that's touched microtransactions, I'm never touching it. You could go, the whole games industry is corrupt and horrific, and AAA games, I'm never touching them. You know what, gaming, I'm done with it because there's too many microtransactions. I'm not willing to filter through it, which is like it's not even hard to filter through it, right? Like, you can avoid microtransactions very easily. There's all these different angles of perceiving it, and I think that just in terms of playing games, it's really nice to go, yeah, that's a flaw. I'll just step away from that. And then you don't have to think about it anymore. You just go, okay, boom, done. And that effectively works as a boycott of the things that you don't like anyway. So if it's bad enough, you just step away from it. You focus on the games that you like. And fine. Or you don't engage with those particular mechanics and so on and so on. But when it goes into the creative side of things, when it goes into creating a game, if all you focus on is the negative aspects of all the things that you've been playing, the things that you don't like, then when you start actually trying to create something, all you know is what it's not. And there's still so much void there. There's so much... it's hard to create something by eliminating everything else. I mean, that's kind of what you do when you create something, but you also have to know what the something you're creating is. I'll get more into this right now. If you're creating a sculpture, it's essential that you know what you want it to look like. You can visualize it, you can create it, right? Not just what you want it to not look like. And there's a subtle, not that subtle maybe, but there's a easily missed distinction between creating exactly what you want to create and creating something that is not what you don't want to create. Right? It's easy to go, oh, well, this is what I don't want to make. I want to make an RPG, but I don't want it to be this, 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 or the other. That's fine as long as the next step is, and this is what I do want it to be. Right? You create a whole design, you get a clear image of what it is that you're trying to create. And yes, you avoid the things you're not interested in because you notice some common pitfalls, some common mistakes, some things that irk you, and you go, okay, I don't want those. That is like the smallest percentage of the process. I think that's what I'm really trying to get to here. The least effort required is noticing, excuse me, the least important place to put all of your effort is in noticing what sucks. Right? I'm saying that negativity is overrated because it's so easy. Is it useful? Absolutely. It's really nice to look at something and go, oh, don't like that. Not going to do that whenever I make my project. But if you invest all your time in noticing what you don't like and in critiquing things and you like take pride in the fact that you know what's bad and so on and so on, you're putting all your energy into the wrong, in my opinion, into the wrong thing. In my opinion, it is much harder and much more valuable to create an image of exactly what it is that you want to create. It is very hard to know, I want this to look like this. It is shockingly hard. If you've never written up a game design doc, if you've never worked on just drafting out some ideas and started working in the engine and started creating these different things, if you've never, drawn or written a book or whatever it is that your creative pursuit is, if you've never actually dove into it and you've only looked around and said, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and then imagined, if I do this, it'll be so much better. If I do it this way, it'll be so incredible because I know what I don't like. Then the moment that you sit down and start trying to create what you do like, you get frustrated because you go, I know what I don't like, but everything that comes out is what I don't like. Yes, because those are the pitfalls, and that happens. You notice the pitfalls. You say, oh, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. And maybe some of them you go, ooh, I might have to compromise here because I just don't have the resources or I haven't figured out a creative way yet or whatever. I think usually there's a creative way. But you're better off, in my opinion, focusing your time and energy and effort on noticing what is good, noticing what you like, noticing what is incredible, what is beautiful, what is enjoyable, because that is where the juice is. That is where you really become skilled at something. You really develop good taste because you start to notice how difficult it is to put together something so incredibly tuned. You notice all the workmanship that goes into it and you go, oh man, they got this just right. When I was playing Expedition 33, I was like, the save system that they figured out is exactly right. I like never have to go into a menu to hit save. There are still save points in a way that gives me this JRPG vibe. There's still something kind of like save points going on, but they're put together so smoothly where I can just pick right back up. I can quit at any time. I don't feel like I have to stay in the game so much. Like it's good. It's very nice. And because I've gone through the history of JRPGs and played all these games and had moments where I go, yeah, okay, that kind of bothers me, right? That's happened. But I've never obsessed with it. I've never, like, save points in old games. I never went like, I hate save points. I hate save points. They're so annoying. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, it kind of creates this spot where you're consistently, like, you can kind of remember where you were. And, I saw some positives in it and some negatives. If all I had done was go, oh, it's keeping me from playing in smaller chunks and it's really frustrating because this, and like I had to stay up late to do this. If that was the only thing I focused on the save points, I wouldn't have noticed the positive attributes of the save points, right? It kind of creates a nice marker, a point in the game that has a special feeling to it. And there's things that you can do at a save point that you can't just do everywhere else in the world. So then when I played Expedition 33, and I noticed that they have camp spots that act as a little bit of the flavor of a save point. They give you the ability to change things for your party. They draw a little inspiration from some Elder Scrolls, holy cow, Elden Ring, some Dark Souls stuff. They draw a little inspiration from over there. They draw a little inspiration from the JRPG stuff. And then they're not actually the save system, but they've got little echoes of old save systems, right? And then the saving itself happens at moments where you barely even notice it, but you still feel whenever you jump back in, you're like, I know what's going on here. I'm good. Because somebody picked up on all of these good elements of all of these different games and noticed the bad stuff too. And went, how do I pull the good out of the bad? How do I keep the charm from these save points? How do I keep the charm from these campsites in Dark Souls? How do I take the charm from these things and integrate them into my game idea and have it even be a part of the story? This is the thing. All right, okay, here's the pitch for you. All right, here's the real pitch of the point that I'm making. Maybe it's that positivity is underrated. Noticing those good things and then being able to recreate them in a different way, I think that's how you get a masterpiece. I think that's how you end up at this point where something really incredible happens. You can make a good game. You can make a good book. You can make a good whatever by not doing anything bad and then having a little bit of a vision of what it is that you want to do. But if you know every single good thing that you've run into that you want to integrate into the game that you're creating, and you look at it and you reach a point where you go, this is pretty good, right? You're like, this game feels really good, but something is missing, right? You have that little feeling. You're like, something's not right. There's something that I can't quite figure it out, but there's just something, and I know it's wrong, but it's bothering me. And then other people are like, oh, this game is really good. And then you show it to somebody else, and they're like, oh, this is really good. And they're like, no, I think you're just being too critical of this, whatever, right? If you have the experience of noticing what is good about stuff, you might go, in that moment, you might just go, oh my God, it's missing that little bit of charm from, let's say you're making a horror game. You're missing that little bit of charm, that moment of security, of safety, of comfort when you walk into a save room where you can't be harmed and there's a different music that plays and there's all of this beautiful stuff. I'm talking Resident Evil right here. Right, there's this moment of clarity, of safety, of security, and you might have something where you make your game and it's scary and it's spooky and there's jump scares, but they're not that predictable and it's pretty good, and you're like, there's a thing that chases you and this, that, and the other, and everybody's like, oh, it's so good, this is compelling, this is compelling, this is good, and you're like, yeah, that is good, you're right, this is good, this is good. I'm not doing these annoying things, but it's missing that moment of release, that moment of relief, that moment of, oh my God, I'm actually completely and totally safe. And if you know all of the different ways that you can create that moment because you've noticed it in different games, because you've taken the time to really look at it and go, I love this. This is incredible. Then it can come to you and you can integrate little ideas that you would not have otherwise known. You've built a vocabulary of good stuff, right? By noticing what is good in a game, by noticing what you love about a game, by noticing every little piece of joy that pops in when you think about that game, right? Like I think about the game Nox and I go, oh, there is so much good stuff in that game, right? That game is almost a masterpiece. It is a stupid game, right? There are things in Nox that are just like, are you kidding me? This is insane. What are you doing, right? This is an old game that's kind of the Diablo 2 era top-down thing. I've talked about it before. I've got an episode about it very early in this podcast. The story, awful. There's really bad stuff in the story. But my God, the gameplay in that thing has some cool ideas, some really cool ideas that are really well executed and just incredible stuff. And I think about that game and it makes me love games. That's the other side of this. I think about all the things that are really good and cool and interesting and beautiful, and I go, God, I love games. What a cool hobby. How amazing is it that this exists? And then I feel inspired and I want to create stuff and I want to do something. And it keeps that little fire going in me. But if I'm just going, oh, the story was so bad in that game. Why do games make such bad stories, right? And then I start thinking about like MMOs that have stories that I don't like, or I start thinking about, and then from there I start thinking about this other thing, and it can roll down a hill, just snowball down a hill of negative thing after negative thing, and then you start going, the games industry is doomed. Maybe I shouldn't even make games anyway, and nobody's even gonna enjoy it anyway, right? Or you can build a vocabulary. You can build a toolbox. You can look at the things that are incredible and you can, oh God, you can even start just making them, right? You can start echoing them a little bit, like putting your own spin on it and going, how do I create that vibe? How do I create that system that they're using? I need to start doing this at some point. I'm not at that level yet, but yeah, I could be if I had the time for it. Good God, I'll get there. There is something about building a vocabulary in this, right? I think it's so much more valuable to know what you're aiming for than to know what you're avoiding. It's so much nicer to see all the incredible possibilities and pick the ones that you want than it is to see all of the incredible failures and ways that it could go horribly wrong and avoid them, right? It's much more fun to move towards the target than it is to just keep dodging stuff, right? And you'll need to dodge stuff, right? Sorry, I have an image in my head right now of running towards a goal while a whole bunch of crappy obstacles come at you, right? And you're dodging the obstacles, right? There's stuff that you don't want to have happen on the way. There's stuff that you don't want to be part of the finished project. Your game is a Katamari, and you're rolling around, and you're trying to, Katamari Damacy, amazing game. You're rolling a ball, and you're picking things up. You're rolling around the ball, and you're trying to only pick up this type of object, right? Which is literally a version of that. That's one of the things you do in one of those games. It's that. You're creating this project, and you're trying to only pick up the things you want. Sometimes you're going to have to pick up something you don't like. Sometimes it's unavoidable, right? Sometimes, you go, well, here we are. It's nice to not write yourself into that corner, but I think it's probably bound to happen sometimes, right? I think I've made my point. But just to summarize it, at the end of this chunk, before we send you off, noticing what is good, noticing what is skillfully executed, how it's done, what you love about it. The value of noticing what you love about something is so underrated. I mean, we give it lip service, but it's underrated in terms of our actual actions in day-to-day life. And am I talking about myself too on this one. I intentionally try to focus on stuff that I really like, especially in this podcast. When talking about specific games, I really try to lean in on what's good about them. We give it lip service, but I don't think we do it in our actions. I don't think we really live the life of this thing is so good, and I'm so impressed, and it's so beautiful and joyful and cool, and I'm amazed, and like, how did they even do that? That rules, right? That's so exciting. And when I say that negativity is overrated, what I mean is we all know, right? It's not that great. But there's a thing in our head that goes, well, I need to notice what's bad. Otherwise, how will I ever avoid what's bad? You'll avoid what's bad by going after what's good. You'll be like, oh, this isn't the good thing that I was trying to make. And we act in a way, maybe I should speak for myself. I often act in a way where I'm avoiding the bad instead of chasing the good, instead of pursuing the good and working towards it in a steady way and creating something beautiful and building up those tools and working towards whatever it is that I have a vision of that I really want to make. That is a worthwhile journey. Just noticing that things suck, yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. I could just dunk on League of Legends for 5 episodes straight. I could do an entire episode on the way their microtransactions work. I could do an entire episode on their community building. I could do an entire episode on their how do I phrase this? Tutorialization, their method of introducing their community into the game itself, and why that is a problem from like an education perspective. And I could do those if I wanted to, like really sink my teeth in, and it would be fun, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, let me just improvise on this. I could like do a whole freaking video essay on the player education tutorial problems in multiplayer games, right? Like this very sink or swim problem. But I don't want to do that one. It would take a lot of effort. Like I'm making it sound like, oh, I could just do that. I could not just do that tomorrow. It would take a lot of effort, but I know the angle. I have the ideas for those things. And that to me is way less valuable, not just for me, but for everybody else out there, right? If there's a specific problem that you need to get in there and solve, great. That's when you do that work. You get in there and you solve it. You go into that deep dive. Like if I worked for them, right? If somebody works for them and wants to go through and do all that research, good luck. There's also going to be a whole bunch of other practical considerations and monetization problems and whatever. But that's when you can go in on that. If you're just trying to draw inspiration and you're not actually running into that problem itself, or yourself, then just take the good. Take the good, leave them with their problems, and know to avoid them. But learn from the good stuff. It's also way more interesting and way more valuable, I think, to look at other games that do multiplayer communication really, really well than it is to look at a game that does it really poorly, right? Like you can look at Guild Wars 2 has some very good collaborative stuff going on. Just to jump into that real quick, they do not punish people for working together, right? That's huge. They don't punish people for working together. They encourage working together just across the board. And the people in that game are very friendly. The game has motivations for you to help people to some extent. There's like world quest kind of things that you can just run into that make the game more interesting. You're interested in helping somebody else. They're trying to get something done. You can all work together. It's nice. It's well done. And I think it's more interesting to look at that. Or more valuable, more powerful, more everything. It also just makes the world seem like a brighter place. Today's question is more of a challenge, which is just notice something that you really like about a game's design. The more subtle it is, the better, right? Like if you can really dig in there and be like, wait, why did I just feel good about this? Right? If you have one of those moments where you go, oh, that felt good. What did the game do just there to make me like that? And do I like that? Is that something I want to put in my toolbox? If you can notice that, then I think that would be really valuable and really cool. That's everything. That's what I've got for you this week. Thank you all for joining me once again. I always appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next one. Until then, get out there, make some stuff, learn some stuff too, explore, and have fun with it. All right, bye-bye.